What's happening, everybody? Tyrone Bowman live. It's now time for global news. So while we're getting started on today, we have new Super Bowl champions. We'll talk about that later on in the program. And anyway, I hope you all having a good day. If wherever you're watching from throughout the United States and around the world, thank you for making this program a part of your day, morning, noon, night, or afternoon. Thank you to all of our 2,950 subscribers here on Tyrone Bowman Live. We're continuing to grow, and with your help, we're going to grow even stronger. Bob and Beverly, I'll give you a call later on. We'll kick it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, there's a lot going on in the country, from Ghislaine Maxwell, who refuses to answer questions at the congressional deposition. She is pleading the fifth. Sounds something pretty sneaky and shaky going on there. I'll talk to that later on. But let's get it started here. Also in people, Katherine O'Hara, she died of pulmonary embolism. A death certificate shows. Talk about Steve Bannon, how he's going to have his conviction overturned. He'll probably get pardoned. Savannah Guthrie, she continues to plead for help in finding her mother. Also talk about the Irish man with a valid U.S. work permit is being held in ICE detention for 5 months. I also have an announcement that I'm going to make a little later on in the program. Stay tuned. This is according to News Reuters agency. Ghislaine Maxwell refuses to answer questions at her congressional deposition, according to lawmakers. Maxwell invoked the Fifth Amendment. Democrats accused Maxwell of using the deposition to campaign for clemency. She's going to get clemency anyway. You all wait and see. She's going to get clemency. She'll get a clean record. She might get her conviction overturned, get pardoned, and be let out of prison. It's all just a matter of time. That's why she was moved from a maximum security prison to a more like cupcake prison. And also, lawmakers say Maxwell is prepared to speak fully if granted clemency by Trump. Well, that's something that her and the Trump administration are going to have to work out. That has nothing to do with the Democrats. So Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell refused to answer questions at a deposition before the U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform today, according to lawmakers, drawing criticism from both Republicans and Democratic members of the committee. Maxwell, who was found guilty in 2021 for her role in helping Epstein sexually abuse teenage girls and is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence, invoked her Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and declined to answer questions, lawmakers said after the deposition. This is obviously very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. The committee's chairman, Republican Representative James Comer, told reporters. Democrats on the committee accused Maxwell of using the deposition to campaign for clemency from U.S. President Donald Trump and called on the Republican president to rule out such a move. Quote, what we did not get were any substantive answers to the questions that were asked that would advance our investigation, said Representative James Whitkinshaw, a Virginian Democrat. She was never going to cooperate from the very beginning. She was never going to be cooperative. She was never going to answer questions. See, you got to remember the visit she received when she was in the maximum security prison. See, people keep forgetting. They keep forgetting that she had a visit that nobody in the history of incarceration ever had before, when top officials came to talk to her directly. And it was after that visit that she was moved to a medium security prison. According to the article, what we did get was another episode in her long-running campaign for clemency from President Trump, and President Trump could end that today. He could rule out clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, the monster, end quote. David Marcus, a lawyer for Maxwell, said he advised her to invoke the Fifth Amendment as she has a pending habeas petition that demonstrates that her conviction rests on a fundamentally unfair trial. Well, isn't that what a lot of people are invoking at the same time their Fifth Right Amendment privilege, but they're considered to be guilty if they do the same thing? And don't they have appeals are pending in federal courts? So the Fifth Amendment is not for individuals who say that they're innocent. It's for individuals who are guilty but refuse to incriminate themselves. So they invoke the Fifth Amendment right privilege. And there have been a lot of high-profile people who have done the same thing. So this is nothing new. It goes on every single day. If this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump, Marcus said in a statement in the committee posted on X on Monday. It is not up to the American people to decide if she gets out of prison or not. The American people, the populace of the nation, don't have that power, nor do they have that authority to grant her unconditional pardon or clemency. The deposition came as the U.S. Department of Justice has released millions of internal documents related to Epstein. Documents released include photos of Trump with several women whose faces are redacted and a suggestive note to Epstein, framed out by the outline of a naked woman, which appears to bear Trump's signature. Trump has denied any knowledge of Epstein's crimes and says he broke off ties in early 2000s before Epstein pleaded guilty in 2008 to a Florida state prostitution charge. He says the suggestive note was fake. Comer said that 5 more depositions were scheduled in the Epstein investigation, including on February 26th with former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and on February 27th with former U.S. President Bill Clinton, and they're going to invoke the Fifth Amendment right privilege as well. Be right back, right after this. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. So when former President Bill Clinton and former First Lady Hillary Clinton and former Secretary of State, former Senator Clinton, former presidential candidate Clinton, when they come before the Congressional Committee, they're going to do the same exact thing, as they should. And they shouldn't cooperate either. Why should they? Marcus said in the post X that Trump and Bill Clinton are innocent of any wrongdoing, adding that Maxwell can explain why. Well, her lawyer's pandering. That's what the lawyer's doing. Here's another story I want to talk about. I'm going to be here for a while, so I might as well slow down and take my time. Let's talk about the international outrage that's growing over Israel's plans for the West Bank. You know, a lot of things that people don't want to talk about about the Palestinian people. Hundreds of thousands of lives have been destroyed. Over a million plus people, probably several million, they're without a place to live, without adequate means of survival. So many things have happened that have gone on over in the Middle East. And what's happening is probably the big billionaires are sitting down trying to find out exactly how they can take a desert and turn it into a metropolis, how to make money from it. And this is according to AFP. International outrage was growing on Monday as Israeli plans to tighten the country's grip over the occupied West Bank, with the United Nations chief saying he was gravely concerned. Earlier, Saudi Arabia and 7 other Muslim-majority countries condemned the new Israeli measures, which paved the way for more settlements in the occupied Palestinian territory. Announced on Sunday by Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Defense Minister Israel Katz after being approved by the Security Cabinet. They include allowing Jewish Israelis to buy West Bank land directly and extending greater Israeli control over areas where the Palestinian Authority exercised power. It was unclear when the new rules would take effect, but they do not require further approval. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres was gravely concerned at the changes and warned that they were eroding the prospects for the two-state solution. His spokesman, Stephanie Dujarric, said in a statement, the West Bank, which Israel has occupied since 1967, would form the largest part of any future Palestinian state, but it is seen by many on the religious right as Israeli land. Smotrich had said on Sunday that the changes aimed at deepening our roots in all regions of the land of Israel and burying the idea of a Palestinian state, quote, close quote. Guterres called Israel's actions destabilizing and pointed to an international court of justice finding that Israel's occupation of the Palestinian territory is illegal. The foreign ministers of Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Indonesia, Pakistan, Egypt, and Turkey condemned in the strongest terms the illegal Israeli decisions and measures aimed at imposing unlawful Israeli sovereignty, a Saudi statement said. It called them an attempt at entrenching settlement activity and enforcing a new legal and administrative reality in the occupied West Bank, thereby accelerating attempts at its illegal annexation and the displacement of the Palestinian people. The Israeli measures also envisage transferring authority over building permits for settlements in the Palestinian city of Hebron, the West Bank's largest, from the Palestinian Authority to Israel. In addition, the reform strengthens Israeli control over two major religious sites in the southern West Bank, Rachel's Tomb near Bethlehem and the Cave of the Patriarchs in Hebron. You know, if people would just read the Bible more, they can find all these names, they'll find all these territories and things in the Bible under different names. This has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. This is just a modernized enactment of what has already been taking place. So in addition to the diplomatic criticism, the announcement drew condemnation from Palestinians and experts. The Palestinian presidency in Ramallah, which exercises limited control over some areas of the West Bank, said the move was aimed at deepening attempts to annex the occupied West Bank. What they want is to drive Palestinians into small pieces of land, basically their major cities, enclaves, and the rest is gone. Palestinian political scientist and former minister Ali Jabrar said. On a sad note, according to People magazine, in an article written by Alex Ross, Julia Moore, and Sarah Jones, Katherine O'Hara's cause of death has been confirmed. The comedy legend privately faced rectal cancer, according to the medical examiner. Katherine O'Hara's official cause of death has been determined. The actress, known for her roles in Schitt's Creek and Home Alone, died at the age of 71. On this past Friday, January 30, her rep confirmed to People at the time that she died after a brief illness but did not provide further details. On Monday, February 9, the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's Office confirmed that O'Hara died after suffering from a pulmonary embolism, according to a death certificate obtained by People. Rectal cancer was listed as the underlying cause of the embolism. Here is a beautiful photograph of the beloved actress. She has played in many wonderful movies, and she always appeared to be on scene a very gracious and kind and loving individual. So the death certificate also reveals that O'Hara's was cremated. O'Hara was born in Toronto in 1954. She was the second youngest of 7 children. Her father worked for the Canadian Pacific Railway, and her mother was a real estate agent. Her first acting gig was portraying the Virgin Mary in a nativity play. After graduating from high school, she got a job as a waitress in the Second City Theatre in Toronto. In 1996, she appeared in her first Christopher Guest mockumentary, Waiting for Guthrie. She also would appear in 2000's Best in School and 2003's A Mighty Wind, in which she and Eugene Livy sang together. People called the actress the gifted queen of the bittersweet in a review of 2006's For Your Consideration, another collaboration with Guest. In 2015, she teamed up with Levy once again for Schitt's Creek, created by his son Dan. It was not the first time she and Levy played characters who were romantically involved. Of their long working relationship, she previously told People, quote, I would love to think we continue to challenge each other like a good married couple would do, end quote. In 2020, she won the Emmy for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series for her role. Quote, I will forever be grateful to Eugene and Daniel Levy for the opportunity to play a woman of certain age, my age, who gets to fully be herself, she said. In part during her speech, she also won a Golden Globe and a SAG Award, or the Screen Actors Guild Award, for the series. Let's move on to the next story. According to Politico, the legal department, this is about Steve Bannon, the one who released the video last week talking about how they're ready to go to war and etc., etc., etc. This was written by Kyle Cheney. The Justice Department is seeking to erase the criminal conviction of longtime Trump advisor Steve Bannon for defying a 2021 subpoena from congressional investigators probing his role in the 26 attacks on the Capitol. Now, what gets me is we heard talk last week about if the Clintons did not appear before the congressional committee and respond to the subpoena, that they would be held in contempt. Well, isn't that what Jim Jordan did? No contempt charges, no arrest warrant was issued for him. Remember Jim Jordan? Isn't that what Steve Bannon did? Defied a subpoena to appear? Why is it that these people think that they can play with a certain set of rules, but others have to adhere to what they say because they think that they're Almighty God and that what they say is law? And if you don't do what they say, then you'll become an enemy of whatever state is in their mind. So in a motion signed by U.S. Attorney Gene Pereiro and without the signature of any career prosecutors, the Justice Department asked U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols to dismiss the 2-count indictment the DOJ brought against Bannon more than 4 years ago. Nicholas, a Trump appointee, presided over a week-long jury trial of Bannon in 2022 that resulted in his conviction on criminal contempt charges. Federal prosecutors brought those charges in November 2021 after the Democratic-led House voted to hold Bannon in contempt. The January 6th Select Committee, convened that year by Speaker Nancy Pelosi, had subpoenaed Bannon to describe his contacts with key organizers of the January 6th rally that preceded the attack on the Capitol that day. They also hoped to learn details about his contacts with President Donald Trump in efforts to subvert the results of the 2020 election. That was never going to happen. You know, I remember watching what went down when the insurrection occurred, and the very people who are now in power, who are called the Democrats cowards, calling them pathetic, calling them weak, they were running for their lives. They were hiding, they were ducking, they were looking for cover. And you know what? Something like that doesn't happen without it being a coordinated effort. And as I've said before, I'll say again, if that had been a bunch of Black people who had done the same thing on the same day, the same time, you better believe they would have never been pardoned. They would have been executed by an execution squad. You know it, and I know it. There's a 2-tier judicial system that goes on in this country. I know many of you all don't like it. You don't want to hear it, but it is. There are 2 separate Americas. There's always been 2 different Americas that we are living in. And we are seeing it unfold daily before our eyes. The end of the case is in some ways symbolic. Bannon had already served a 4-month prison sentence in 2024 for his conviction on the charges. But he has appealed his conviction in the Supreme Court, which is awaiting a response from the Justice Department before Monday's move by Pereira. If Nicholas grants the motion to dismiss it, it would likely end this pending Supreme Court case and erase Bannon's jury conviction. Well, you know what? I don't even have to go and read the rest of this article. You already know how it's going to end. I know how it's going to end, and you know how it's going to end as well. According to the Hollywood Reporter, an article written by Carly Thomas, ladies and gentlemen, you are watching Tyrone Bowman live. I'm just Global News. Got to take a legal break. I'll be right back right after this. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Tyrone Bowman, Live Global News. I'm talking about an article in the Hollywood Reporter by Carly Thomas. The headline reads, Savannah Guthrie pleads for the public's help finding her mother, Nancy Guthrie, quote, an hour of desperation. Nancy was last seen on January 31, and authorities believe she was likely taken against her will in a, quote, possible kidnapping or abduction, end quote. Savannah Guthrie has a message for the public as the search for her mother, Nancy Guthrie, continues. The Today Show co-host took to her Instagram account on Monday to share a new video asking for people's help as we are at an hour of desperation. Nancy Guthrie was first reported missing on Sunday, February 1, and authorities believe she was likely taken against her will in a possible kidnapping or abduction. Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts. Savannah Guthrie began the video. As we enter into another week of this nightmare, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt, because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. She continue, we need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock, trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where, and we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson. This is out in Arizona. If you see anything, if you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, then you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation and we need your help, quote, end quote. Nancy Guthrie, who takes essential medications and has mobility issues, was last seen by Anna Guthrie's husband, Tommaso Ciani, when he dropped her off at her home in Tucson on January 31. The following day, she was reported missing by family members after she didn't show up for church. The Pima County Department is investigating her disappearance, calling it a possible kidnapping or abduction. Nancy Guthrie's home was also being treated as a crime scene, as blood discovered on the porch of her home tested positive, as her own authorities confirmed. Sheriff Chris Nanos has shot down reports that Sinani has been identified as a possible suspect, scolding members of the media who reported him as a person of interest without confirming it with investigators. As of Monday, authorities still have not identified a suspect or person of interest in the case. All right. Here's where this case is somewhat murky. Everybody who knows her should be out looking for her. There should be vigils all over the place. Her church should be holding all types of prayer meetings and things of that nature in an attempt to bring awareness to her disappearance, I'm going to say. And I know in my neighborhood where I live, if something like this occurs, everybody is going to be considered a suspect. Everybody. When they come, they consider everybody to be a suspect until they are cleared. And let's hope and pray that there is not foul play going on here. Are you listening to me? Let's hope and pray that this is not foul play going on here. Let's hope and pray that her mother is found safe and sound, but something does not pass the smell test. Something's not right here. So it goes on to say here, Nanos also said in the interview with NBC News, Liz Krutzitz on Wednesday, that he remains hopeful that Nancy Guthrie is still alive. We have nothing else to go on but the belief that she is here, she's present, she's alive, and we want to save her. In an update on Thursday, the FBI announced a $50,000 reward for information that leads to Nancy Guthrie's discovery. I'll tell you how you can find her right away. Put $10 million out on the table. Let a billionaire put up $10 million, and I guarantee you they'll find her ASAP. People are greedy for money. Are you listening? People are greedy for money. You put $10 million, $100 million reward out there, you'll have leads coming from everywhere. Savannah Guthrie, along with her brother, Cameron Guthrie, and sister Anna Guthrie, has shared multiple videos on social media over the past week, asking for prayers, but also addressing the suspected kidnappers directly. Wow. Let me just read this last portion. While a ransom letter hasn't been directly confirmed by authorities, the Pima County Sheriff's Department has acknowledged previous reporting of a ransom note obtained by TMZ, and at least two local news outlets in Arizona last week saying that investigators, quote, are following all leads, end quote. I'll keep you updated on this story. Is this a news article? All right, this is from Axios Philadelphia. Sammy Sparber and Isaac Avelucia wrote this article. It's entitled "The Gap Between Renting and Owning in Philly." Owning a home is 40% more expensive in Philadelphia than renting, a national trend playing out all across 100 of the largest U.S. metro areas per a Lending Tree analysis. So why does it matter? Housing costs have soared nationwide, with stubbornly high home prices and mortgage rates weighing on would-be buyers. Who is driving the high prices? Who stands to benefit from houses being overpaid for? Because of what I'm seeing in my city, the way they're throwing these houses up, it's almost like these houses are prefab. They're being renovated or gentrified seemingly overnight. In many instances, with the cheapest material that they can find. Homeowners with a mortgage now pay around 37% more per month than renters, researchers find. Philly's shortage of affordable housing and declining home ownership rates are problems Mayor Sherelle Parker hopes to tackle through a sweeping initiative to build 13,500 homes and preserve 16,500 structures, a plan that cleared City Council this year. More Philadelphians are embracing micro-living to combat rising home prices. Home sales have slipped about 14% in Philly from last year per Zillow. Meanwhile, the average home price is $376,000, is up nearly 3% at the same time. A growing number of Philadelphians are considered rent burdened. Philly developers are increasingly building apartments with luxury amenities to attract long-term renters who are staying put and waiting for home prices to stabilize, Drexel University economist Kevin Gillian tells Axios. Oh, they're building them, but they're building them downtown. That's where they're being built out. They're taking what used to be, they called blighted black neighborhoods and turning them into gentrified neighborhoods. And the homes there were people once grew up in the neighborhoods that they once knew, you can't even recognize them today. Why? Because of the development that has taken place. So Philadelphians are now left with a tough choice, either committing to paying 10 years of a mortgage or paying rent month to month, enjoying the flexibility. Our affordability trends are heading in the right direction. It's not moving fast, but we're trending backward normalcy. In Philadelphia, the median monthly gross rent of $1,547 in 2024 was slightly higher than the national median rent of $1,487 per the report. Well, in New York City, it's triple that for a shoebox to live in. So living in Philadelphia is far more cheaper than people living in New York City. Let me say that again. Living in Philadelphia is far more cheaper than people who are paying astronomical sums to live in those shoeboxes. With rising prices continuing to escalate, New York City, next to California, is probably one of the most expensive places to live. Why do you think people live in Philadelphia and work in New York? Because it's more affordable. It's more cheaper for them to live in Philadelphia than it is to live in New York City. And many times people who can't afford those overpriced house box apartments are the ones that are getting stuck with the bills. So Philadelphia's median monthly mortgage for 2024 was $2,199, higher than the national median of $2,035. A wave of transplants from pricier cities like New York over the last few years has put pressure on rents in Philadelphia. Refin chief economist Darrell Fairweather told WHYY last year nearly 40% of Philly's housing stock was built before 1939, potentially requiring costly repairs for first-time homeowners to shoulder, per the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. The median age of a Philly homeowner is 35. President Trump has proposed a raft of policies meant to lower mortgage rates and boost home buying demands. Well, how about this? How are people going to buy homes if they don't have any jobs? How are they going to buy homes in this economy if people keep losing their jobs or downsizing or getting fired? A layoff is tantamount to being fired. That's all it is. That's what a layout is. It's tantamount to being fired. You can phrase it any kind of way you want it: downsizing, repackaging, economically feasibility. It's all tantamount to the same thing. People got fired from their jobs. And that's the real rap. So we doing Habitat for Humanity. Congratulations. See, there has to be a solution to what's going on with this economy. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, the midterm elections are coming up, and they're going to take place. Now, people got a choice to make. Do you want this to continue the way it's going on? You want to let the Republicans stay in charge and tell you that everything is all right? And they just look into the camera and they laugh at you, lie to you, make all kind of promises. Meanwhile, they're destroying people's lives, shattering people's lives, destroying people's hopes and ambitions, throwing parties, having all types of galas. I don't know if I have enough time to talk about the Kid Rock fiasco that went down at Turning Point USA on yesterday. That was supposed to be the MAGA response to the NFL halftime show. You know, Kid Rock is an old rocker. I saw some of that stuff where they were just cussing and dancing to black music. You can't stand black people, but you want to dance to Michael Jackson music. That's what gets me. You say we're no contributors, we don't do anything, we don't make a difference in the world, but you got black people's music up in there, and you got white people trying to dance like black people, act like black people, and sing like black people. That's what the minstrel shows were all about back in the day. Oh, don't think that we forgot about what they used to do during that area, where the white actors and actresses used to put on blackface and make fun of black people. They all did it. They didn't want to be black, but they wanted to make fun and belittle and imitate black people. No, I'm acting like a proper man the way I'm supposed to act right. I'm a black brother. Believe that. So when strong people talk about things in America the way they are, the MAGAites can't handle it because they live in a world of fantasy. And they are being hurt during this economy anybody else. I saw a report about the Ohioans. They're down in Ohio complaining. No, Iowa. They're down in Iowa complaining about the lack of jobs. The economy is ripped to shreds. They don't have jobs. They don't have enough money to pay their bills. People are getting laid off. People are getting fired. The farming industry is shattered. They voted for this, remember? They hated Kamala Harris, and they voted for this because they said that Kamala was a liar. There's a lot to cover. I'll get to sports later on. Right now, I'm going to continue with the news cycle for now. I want to talk about what went down at the Super Bowl last night, once I find a good article. All right, let's travel over to some other parts of the news and see what we can come up with here. Here are some stories from the Washington Post. Okay, here we go. See if I can pull it up. Pardon me, ladies and gentlemen. Let's talk about what Target is doing. You remember Target? The one that hastily changed its DEI policy? Well, Target is slashing 500 jobs as the retailer seeks to invest in its stores. You know why Target is beginning to slash these jobs and many more? Because black people are still boycotting them in unprecedented numbers. And it's working. That's why. They're not going to tell you the truth. They're going to pretend like this is about economic affectability and stability. No, black people have said, since you don't consider us to be important, just like they didn't consider black people to be important down in Montgomery, Alabama, during the Jim Crow racist segregationist bus time, black people boycotted the bus system and broke it. The White Citizens Council had a nerve to try to take the Dr. King and the Montgomery Improvement Association to court to demand that black people continue to ride on segregated buses with Jim Crow laws intact and still pay full prices. Are you crazy? Boycotting works. Don't shop where you're not appreciated. Don't spend your money where you know they loathe and hate and despise you. I can't stop you from hating me, which I really don't care, but I darn sure will not give you my hard-earned money. Target, who's this article written by? By Daniel Kay, a business reporter for the British Broadcasting Corporation. Target will cut roughly 500 jobs across its regional offices and distribution sites in the U.S., a move executives have said would allow the struggling retailer to invest in its stores and win back customers. You won't win back black customers. You can forget that. Not happening. And the reason why they got to slash it, because I'm telling you again, black voting works. See, we don't have to argue with y'all. We don't have to fuss with y'all. We don't have to protest with y'all. All we have to do is stop patronizing your businesses. Shut it all down. You'll change policies overnight because you'll lose hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And you'll be forced to go into bankruptcy. And that stuff in Target is overpriced anyway. Target executives announced the reductions on Monday in an internal email to employees, which was obtained by the BBC. The cuts, along with a reorganization of geographic store districts, will help the firm boost store staffing, including labor and hours where needed most, the note says. In other words, let me translate that. Those of you that are still working for Target, you're going to work more hours for the same lousy pay. You're going to do more work more shifts for the same lousy pay that you're being paid now. That's what's going to happen. And if you complain, they'll fire you. The move is among the first strategic decisions made by new chief executive Michael Fidelki, who was named to lead last year as the firm wrestled to reverse more than 4 years of stagnant sales. The job cuts and restructuring add to the workforce reductions that started last October when the firm announced its first major downside in a decade, meaning firing people. In their previous round of cuts, Target shed 1,800 corporate jobs, fired 1,800 employees, which is roughly 8% of its global corporate workforce. The reductions announced on Monday, though smaller in scale, underscore the company's ongoing push to shift investments toward bolstering staffing in its nearly 2,000 stores across the country. Elevating the Quest experience is a key priority towards growth, executives told employees on Monday, adding that in-store workers will receive a new guest experience training. The bottom line is this. I don't even have to read the rest of this article. Target is on the verge of going bankrupt because individuals are tired. I'll be right back, right after this. So this is the same old tactic that they use in corporate America with fancy terms. Bottom line is, people get fired every single day. And they want to bring fancy titles and fancy names. Let's talk about this report from the BBC News. It's called Instagram and YouTube Owners Built Addiction Machines. And there's a trial that's looming. This article was written by Lily Jamali, the North American technology correspondent. The world's largest social media companies have been accused Creating Addiction Machines as a landmark trial began in California, examining the mental health effects of Instagram and YouTube. In his opening argument before Los Angeles Superior Court Judge Carolyn B. Hall and a jury, Mark Lanier argued that his client plaintiff, KGM, suffered from mental health issues as a result of her social media addiction. These companies built machines designed to addict the brains of children, and they did it on purpose, Lanier said. This afternoon, lawyers for Meta and YouTubers are expected to argue that KGM's addiction stemmed from other issues in her life, not their negligence. KGM will be referenced by her initials as Kaylee GM because the alleged harms took place when she was a minor. Lanier also charged that Meta and YouTube failed to warn of the dangers to young users posed by the design of their platforms. Years ago, an elderly woman walked into a McDonald's restaurant. Now, listen to this story because it's true. She bought a hot cup of coffee. The coffee spilled on her hand, and she sued the McDonald's corporation, and she walked away with $1 million. Why did she win the lawsuit? Because there was not a disclaimer on the label that said that the coffee is hot. That's why now when you go into stores, they tell you that the stuff is hot, and they make sure they have cups on there that suck the cup in so that the coffee does not spill. They may win this lawsuit. It depends how persuasive they are to the jury. Lanier underscored his opening remarks by speaking with a display of children's blocks in front of him. The words addicting brains and children appeared next to the letters A, B, and C. This case is about two of the richest corporations in history who have engineered addiction in children's brains. Lanier said, I'm going to show you the addiction machine that they built, the internal documents that people normally don't get to see, and emails from Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg and YouTube executives. Now, I'm going to pick this back up at the 7 o'clock hour, 1 hour from now. The same story, but it will continue because I have some official matters that I have to attend to. Thank you for watching Tyrone Bowman Live. As always, if you like the channel, if you like the content, kindly subscribe. If you decide to support us, the information is also in the caption. Till 7 o'clock tonight, never surrender, never quit.